Good Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Chris Harapsky. Hey, keep a rain jacket handy, maybe an umbrella. Rain's moving across Minnesota once again and will last through this afternoon. Our weather team is issuing a weather impact alert through 4 o'clock because of the storms. We're going to check in with the weather team in just a little bit. And it is another day, another weather impact alert in place, and it feels like the threat of severe weather has been looming a little larger lately, you're correct. But if it feels like a certain part of the state is always getting the worst of it, that might just be a matter of perspective. Monday's tornado in Detroit Lakes is indeed just the latest example of damaging storms that have struck the North Central Lakes region. But state climatologist Kenny Blumenfeld says don't read too much into that at this point. He says Minnesota averages 24 to 36 days of severe weather a year somewhere in the state. And the area getting hit recently spans a whole lot of square miles.
There isn't any research that says beyond just kind of weather patterns getting a little bit stuck, here's why this happens. That's not something that we necessarily know. The saying that we have about the weather, because there's this tendency to believe that it's always kind of more exciting or worse somewhere else, is that somewhere else is much larger than right here.
Blumenfeld says back in 2016, a smaller area near Brainerd got hit repeatedly by damaging storms, including one that took Babe the Blue Ox for a ride. But he says extended patterns like that are rare and also don't really have any scientific explanation. Developing right now in Inver Grove Heights, one person is awaiting charges after a vehicle pursuit and running from the police overnight. According to police, officers tried to pull over a vehicle early this morning near South Street and 6th Avenue, and then they took off. It was found a short time later. Police pulled it over, but the driver ran away. And when an officer was approaching the vehicle, police say they accidentally fired a shot into the vehicle's tire. No one was hurt. The driver of the vehicle was found shortly after and taken to the hospital for an injury after a fall from a fence. That's according to police. That incident under investigation. Overseas, new videos of strikes overnight between the U.S. and Iran. Those strikes, according to Iran, retaliation for American strikes that killed at least one person. The back and forth causing the U.S. to revoke Iran's ability to sell oil on the global market. President Trump also says that a fragile ceasefire deal with Iran is now over and is threatening more strikes against that nation.
Their electric manufacturing facilities, right? Their electric plants where they make their electricity there. We will, if we have to, we'll take them out. I don't want to do that, but if we have to, we'll take them out. They have desalinization plants. We'll take them out if we have to. I hate to do that. That's probably the one I would like not to do least.
Meantime, world leaders still juggling how to handle the war and the war between Ukraine and Russia. NBC's Garrett Hake reports from Turkey.
With those overnight strikes, Iran has really moved to the forefront of this NATO summit, with the president this morning blasting the Iranian leadership, who just a few weeks ago he was praising as smart, capable people with whom he could make a deal. Now he says they can't be trusted and calls them scum, although he did say that his negotiators could continue to talk to Iran if they so choose. The bottom line is this puts the president in the same bad situation he was in for much of the spring. He can continue to try to negotiate with a regime he now says he doesn't trust, or he can resume what has been an unpopular war and try to force open the Strait of Hormuz, force Iran to give up its nuclear program at the risk of raising the oil and gas prices his administration very much needs to bring back down before the start of the midterms this fall. Now, if Iran is the major issue here, it still hasn't entirely pushed Ukraine out of the spotlight. The president meets with President Zelensky this morning, where Zelensky is expected to press the president both for tougher sanctions on Russia's economy and also for more and faster delivery of anti-missile technology, air defenses, Patriot missile system that the Ukraine desperately needs in this moment. A lot of the allies here think this is a pivotal moment for Ukraine in what has become kind of a long-range war. Ukraine has started to perhaps turn the tide against Russia, and if they could get a little bit of a push from the President of the United States, we may be talking about a different future for Ukraine. All of that on the table here this morning at the NATO summit. Garrett Hake, NBC News, Ankara, Turkey.
Happening right now, a Minneapolis City Council committee is hearing what the community thinks about having drones as first responders. City officials say it'll help police get a first look at a scene within minutes after a 911 call. 5 other cities in the state, including Minnetonka, are already part of this new program. Today, we're just over 6 months into the state's new paid leave program. Officials say it's been used by 75,000 Minnesotans since launching in the first of the year. State leaders just released a progress report showing applications are slightly higher than expected. Danny Spiewak explains how things are going.
At Holman's table inside the St. Paul airport, 4 restaurant employees have taken paid leave so far in 2026.
It's had its challenges, obviously.
Although owner Troy Redding supports the concept of paid leave, he has long criticized the new state program as too inflexible, echoing the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, which has called it a one-size-fits-all, especially for small businesses with limited staffing.
The general public, we try to make sure it doesn't impact them, but I see it, right? I know that we aren't given the quality of service that we can give if we have the time to give it.
Minnesota is one of more than a dozen states in the U.S. that now offers a form of paid leave. The program allows someone to take 12 weeks of medical leave a year, 12 weeks of family leave, or 20 weeks for a combination of both.
We're still in the early days, even six months in.
Evan Rowe with the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development says bonding leave for new parents and medical leave are the most common forms of leave taken so far. 64% of approved applicants are women, and the majority are younger than 40.
There's something specifically very different about this program that is making work better for Minnesotans and is providing support to Minnesotans that didn't previously exist.
At Holman's table, Troy Redding has encouraged the state to allow business owners more flexibility.
Adding and subtracting people is very difficult in the hospitality business. Not having to keep somebody's position open would be helpful.
Right now, friends and family are remembering a 23-year-old man who died after a tragic fireworks accident in Shoreview this weekend. Family members confirm the Roseville man died early Sunday morning. Fire officials say he was holding a mortar tube with a 2-inch firework on the roof of an abandoned building when it exploded right in front of him. Raya Katene has more.
Losing him was something I've never expected.
This is a goodbye no one here was expecting.
23 years old.
But it's no surprise to his loved ones.
It shows what kind of man he was.
That people are packing this mosque to remember, pray for, and say goodbye to Yassine Abu Mayale.
I've seen people that I've never met in my life. I didn't even know they were part of Yassine's life.
The 23-year-old was killed over the holiday weekend when the firework he was holding exploded. Authorities say he was rushed to the hospital but passed away from his injuries.
I would call him, if not every day, every other day. He was there every single moment. Everyone needed him in their life.
And his was a life well lived, Yassine's family says, as they reflect on the countless hours he spent mentoring kids at the mosque.
You'll see a lot of younger people at this funeral, which are actually his students he taught for years on end.
Instilling in them, his family says, the values Yassine lived his life by.
Patience, honesty, teaching them, mentoring them even about business questions, career, listening to their parents.
He's such a role model to the community that I wish I can be 10% of the man he was.
Genuine and honest and sincere were the primary words that came to mind.
An unexpected goodbye. His cousins, who consider themselves more like brothers, say will drive them to live a life inspired by Yassine.
Yeah, I hope so.
In Bloomington, Raya Katene, Kare 11 News.
The Minnesota Department of Public Safety tells us that the last time a fatality was caused by fireworks in the state was on the 4th of July in 2022. Right now, communities expressing concern over 2 potential hospital mergers that would shake up the Twin Cities. They packed a North Minneapolis church last night to talk about the proposed merger between South Dakota-based Sanford Health and North Memorial. North Memorial's CEO acknowledging the system's struggling financially. Healthcare workers and faith leaders say they want a community benefits agreement to make sure corporate follows through with its promises.
What we're hoping to actually get in writing, they frankly said all of these things out loud that they plan to do. We want it in writing. We want a real commitment. If you believe it, put your pen where your mouth is.
A meeting has not been set between all the parties yet, as the deal is also still undergoing regulatory approvals. Stick with us, we got more news and weather coming up after the break.